Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're going to be taking a first look at a scenario which I have not really played a whole lot of in Strategic Command World War I. And the scenario we're going to be taking a look at is the Ludendorff campaign, or the German Spring Offensives of 1918. Now, you've seen, if you watch the channel anyway, you've probably seen me play quite a bit of Strategic Command World War I, but in everything I've shown on the channel so far, it's always been the Grand Campaign and the Vanilla Campaign. And so we've played the entire war from the side of the Entente, and we've played the entire war from the side of the Central Powers, which basically gives you a full map of Europe fighting World War I on East and West fronts, in the Balkans, in the Middle East, and allows you to play through the war in 2-week turn increments with an I go, you go system. Basically, you do your turn resolves itself, the AI gets its turn, it does its turn, and it resolves itself. The game includes both politics, strategy in terms of buying the right kinds of units, R&D, and then, combat as well at a pretty zoomed out level. What we're going to be looking at in today's video, however, is actually one of the game's limited scenarios, one of its operational scenarios, and that is one that focuses just on the Western Front in 1918 during those German offensives that attempted to win the war before the Americans could get too involved with the war and sort of turn the manpower, factor on its head before German society would potentially collapse under the increasing strain of the blockade and whatnot. So with that being said, that's what we're going to look at today. We're also going to be using the Blue Max mod, version 1.2.1. This started out, I believe, as a community mod, which overhauled the visuals, the UI, and all that sort of thing. But it actually has been incorporated in one of the recent patches for the game to be something that you can just access from the settings. So if you ever want to mess around with that, you just go into settings, go to mods, and you've got all the Blue Max mods options here that overhaul the units, the sounds, some of the loading screens, the interface, and just what have you. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into single player here. We're going to be doing the oh, by the way, so in terms of the single player scenarios, and by the way, this stuff over here on the right is some of the imagery, the new imagery, but there are two scenarios in the game. There's the March on Paris, and then there's the Ludendorff offensive. Ludendorff is 2-day per turn. March on Paris is 1 day per turn, a very zoomed in look at the German offensive of 1914. And then the rest of these are all sort of the standard, I believe this one is the standard 1917. Turns alternate. Yeah. So these are the other scenarios are the full-blown full map scenarios, but Ludendorff and March on Paris are the limited scenarios, which I think is interesting because it kind of makes the game a very different type of game. Meanwhile, or by the way, Kiku Futaba, thank you very much for the bits, man. I appreciate that. That's generous. And then Mike Unez, thank you for the follow. So let's go ahead and jump in here, and we're going to be playing as the Central Powers in the 1918 Ludendorff Offensive. So you can see here we play as Germany and Austria-Hungary, although I don't think Austria-Hungary is actually in this scenario at all. We'll just keep the standard difficulty settings and jump right in. We can go with different land counter styles, so you've got sort of the NATO counters, and it looks like those are the only options for the Blue Max mod. Same for the ship counters, although those aren't NATO symbols. We can change the border style. There's a couple of different border styles. We'll keep the red dots, I guess. And I'm not really gonna edit any of the other stuff. Hey, the Sultan. Hope you're doing well tonight. It was the spring of 1918. Germany was ascendant. Russia had fallen. The German armies in the east were transported into the Western Theater. But America was coming into the war, and so Germany had a very limited blah blah blah. Anyway, Germany had a very limited window of which they were able to maintain a numerical superiority on the Western Front after the fall of Russia. So you can see this particular scenario, a decisive victory can be won by capturing all 4 hexes of Paris. A major victory is won if you hold any of the sets of objectives at the end of 1918. Ypres, Dunkirk, Calais, Boulogne, Dieppe, Verdun, Toul, Nancy, Reims, Soissons, and any part of Paris. So you have to any of the following sets of objectives. So any part of Paris, Verdun, Toul, Nancy, Reims, and Soissons, or Ypres, Dunkirk, Calais, Boulogne. So basically there's a channel route where you can go for the channel ports up in the north. There is sort of a central France route, I believe, Verdun, Toul, Nancy, Reims, the strategic points in the center of France, or just driving on Paris but failing to take it all the way. So decisive means you take all of Paris. Major means you take some of these. Once you've decided your objectives, deploy your units accordingly, and then begin the attack. Okay, so all of your artillery units that are already on the map will start the campaign with 5 shells, but the ones you're about to deploy will have 10 shells. Therefore, the guns you deploy will be the ones that will provide the main punch in my initial attack. If you select auto-deploy, then all these units will be placed between Lille and Saint-Quentin. All right, so it looks like we get a bunch of artillery units to deploy here at our leisure here. 1, 2, 3. 3 artillery units. We've got 2 units of recon bombers, a fighter unit, and then 5 divisions of crack troops. And we know these are crack troops because they've got level 2 experience already. So these are basically, I'm assuming these are meant to represent our stormtrooper type units that are trained on breaking down trenches and using sort of a shock attack warfare with like flamethrowers and the like. So the question becomes, where do we want to hit? So you can see this is the Western Front, just the Western Front in 1918. You can see the British positions are up here, kind of in the center to the north. They also have some additional troops north here. I'm not sure who these are. I think these are the Portuguese. Looks like the Portuguese have two units here. And then there's also some Belgian units here in the tip of Belgium. Now, if we wanted to go with the channel route of objectives, we could focus on Ypres here, Dunkirk, Calais, Boulogne. That would sort of take the channel ports and potentially threaten Britain, maybe cause a panic. I don't know. Remember, Germany's navy is very strong at this period. It's the second, or at least at one point, is it still the second largest navy, or is the U.S.? But in any event, they have a massive naval fleet, not strong enough against the British, but maybe strong enough to hold off the British long enough to get a landing across to England. So maybe that would justify it being a major victory where you'd have a political settlement. The other victory is taking Reims, Soissons, I think Amiens. I'm not sure where Toul is, but sort of some of the central objectives in France itself. Nancy down here, Toul is over here, and then Verdun is here. So basically the morale centers. It would also, if you take all of these, you'd push the entire front back pretty considerably in 1 hex of Paris. Or you can obtain a decisive victory by taking all of these French hexes in Paris. So all 5 of these hexes in Paris. And so I think that's what my objective is going to be. The historical Ludendorff offensive started kind of at the gap, I believe, between the British and the French armies, but they kind of attacked all over the place, which is a little bit weird from my perspective, as they just kept trying to find weak points and exploit it and get big breakthroughs and gain lots of terrain. But it was very rarely successful on a strategic level. They did get kind of close to Paris. There was some fighting, where is it, near Chateau Thierry, and I think near Montmartre. So they did get, this way. They definitely broke through the front. But then, like, the other offensives, there was, I think, one in the south. There was one in the north. It was just kind of all over the place. I'm going to try and be more focused in my attack. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to deploy some artillery. First things first, let's go ahead and deploy 1 artillery unit here. We'll go ahead and deploy a 2nd artillery unit here. And then we're going to go ahead and deploy some of our infantry, our crack infantry, the 11th and 12th divisions. We'll deploy here. And so our main objective here is going to be to take Soissons, try and break through there. And then once we break through there, drive on Paris over this direction. Additionally, I would also like to try and break through at Reims. So we've got kind of a dual, we need to break through on more than just a couple of hexes long front. So we're going to try and break through here with most of our effort, but then we will also try and break through at Reims as well. And so I think to do that, or maybe we should go a little bit further east, try to break through near Valmy and then use this rail line to drive west. So the heart of our advance could be sort of between these two rail lines, sort of linking up at Muse. Let's do that, because I can't deploy my artillery far enough forward, I don't think, to hit the front at Reims, at least not on the first turn. So we'll deploy one unit here. We're going to need some recon bombers to scout for our artillery pieces. So go ahead and do that. And then we'll have some fighter units also to provide some fighter cover for them. We've got a couple of additional divisions here, so we're going to deploy one there, one here, and then we've got a third division that will deploy, I guess, along the Reims front as well, I think. I don't know. I can't get them too close to the front over here near Soissons, so I'm not sure that makes a lot of sense. We could deploy them as a reserve here up in the north, but I don't think we're going to make a real push up that way. I think we're primarily going to stay on the defensive in that direction. And a lot of the other troops of ours aren't quite as good. NATO counters kill you, you just don't like them. Well, it's the only option for this mod anyway. All right. So this may not be the sexiest looking map or game or whatnot, but I enjoy it. It's quite a lot of fun. Oh, do the allies get to go first? Or is this just intelligence? The importance of Paris. Our soldiers are hoping that this offensive will win the war for us and bring the long-awaited peace. They will therefore be disappointed if we are not significantly closer to Paris by June. Our soldiers' morale will suffer if we do not have any units within 4 hexes of Paris from the beginning of that month, and the effect will be worse if we don't have any units within 8 hexes of the capital. Having our forces close to Paris, therefore potential victory, will reduce the disaffection in the army, while also preventing French morale from rising, which it will do if they think their capital is safe. So let's get marching on Paris. So that's interesting. Then you kind of have to fight that uphill battle if you try and go along the northern channel ports as well. Okay, so the focus needs to be down here in the south. I think the question is, where should our breakthrough occur? These enemy units are pretty well dug in. You can see level 4 entrenchment, level 4 entrenchment, 4 and 4. There's a little bit of a salient here. There's a nice rail line and some clear terrain behind these woods over here. The enemy troops are not terribly experienced. We don't see any stars. The 151st and the 19th divisions here are a little bit more experienced, but most of these troops are green. Now the artillery here can only hit the 151st. This artillery unit can hit any of these divisions all along this front. But I think the first thing we need to do is figure out who we want to fly our recon flight against to get a good look at from an artillery perspective. So we're going to fly it against the 1st division here, primarily because they're on the rail line. So I think they'll be a little bit easier to break through. So we'll go ahead and do that. You can see enemy interceptors did fly up to meet us. We did have our escorts that we placed as well provide us some cap. So they attack the enemy fighters as they come up to meet us. Our recon bombers didn't take any damage. And now you can see this position has been reconned. So we know what is there. Additionally, I'm going to use this recon bomber over here on the right, and I'm going to go ahead and also recon the position of the 161st division, so that way we've got a 2 recon front. Well, actually, no, let's do this. Let's do this division in the salient, maybe? Since we're going to have to use artillery against the 151st, and they're a little bit more experienced. The recon also did unveil some enemy artillery in the rear there, so that's something that we should be aware of. How far can these guys fly out? Because we do have some recon bombers over near Verdun. So let's also recon this position here north of Valmy along the rail line, because I will like to try and march north if we can. We don't have any escorts there, so we did lose some aircraft, but we did still manage to recon the position, and we actually managed to damage one of the enemy units there. Okay. So first things first, let's go ahead and get rid of these enemy units' entrenchments. So I think we actually reduced it by 1 just with the recon, apparently. So now if we go ahead and bombard them with artillery, these units have 10 artillery pieces. You can see we don't do any actual damage to the unit, but we did reduce its entrenchment level down here in the lower sort of center right. So they're down to 1 out of 4, and this next bombardment gets rid of their entrenchment benefit entirely. Their morale also drops to 36%. We're going to do that on the 151st Division as well with this Army Detachment A of artillery. And we'll see if we can't reduce these guys. And maybe get into their rear and destroy that enemy artillery, which is almost certainly going to be supporting them. Okay, so their entrenchments are gone as well as their morale. All right, so let's go ahead and attack these guys first. We're going to deal with enemy defensive artillery firing and support. Our own troops here are in a little bit of a salient themselves. All right, so these guys did drive the enemy back. I'm going to move these cracked troops into the gap. Attack here. They do suffer some defensive artillery, but they're into the open a little bit. So we'll move both these crack units into the gap, wipe out that French division. And then we've got a little bit of a breakthrough going here. Slide these troops south. All right, so we did break through on a 2-hex front here. Meanwhile, this enemy position in a salient we may not be able to overcome. I don't know how much enemy artillery they have, but I don't have a ton of infantry reserves out this way. All right, we can swap some of these units around. So let's swap these guys. It does lose their entrenchment, but... Alright, so we destroyed that enemy division, which is a slightly more experienced division, so I'm happy with that. We didn't break through the line, though, so we didn't manage to get in there and do some havoc. We can move these guys into that position. In theory, there is a slight gap here, although I think I'll be able to close it with reserves. So I could move some of these experienced troops in that way. I'm basically unbuckling the entire position by shifting these troops around, though, and getting rid of their entrenchment. Super Average, thank you very much for the sub. Appreciate it. All right, so let's focus on this enemy unit here. We don't really have a good ability. Oh, I haven't bombarded them yet. That's why. All right. So 2 to 3, defensive artillery. 1 to 2. Also, thanks for the gift sub. Very generous of you. All right, let's do this. So we've broken through at this position as well. So I think they'll pull back here. Lar, thanks for the sub also. Just beat Strategic Command World War II as the Axis. Nice. Yeah, that can be a challenging game. It was for me anyway. If you don't, depending on the settings you gave the AI. Right, I am going to move this division into Lyon. We're going to move the artillery. Oh no, I didn't want to do that. Can I undo that? Crap. We'll swap that artillery here. These guys can still fire on these troops here, so I'm going to save some of my ammo here, but I am going to try and expand this breach from a 1-hex breach to a 2. We've got infantry defending Lyon to prevent the enemy from advancing right into the terrain we just opened up. We'll move our headquarters unit forward, I think, slightly. We're going to end up putting it at Lyon in a moment or two. This reserve division, or this elite division at Rithal, we're going to shift left to support this breakthrough effort. These crack troops near Valmy will kind of hang in position. And then the rest of the front, I don't know that I want to do a whole lot. I probably will spend some points to reinforce some of these artillery units, which are at partial strength, up to full. I'm not sure I want to do a whole lot, though. As I said, I am going to go ahead and move one of our fighter units, operate one of our fighter units up here to the north. So we've got some additional fighter cover for our recon bombers, which I do think are very important to leverage. But I don't want to attack any of these positions around here because it's just going to be a bad, you know, typical over-the-top experience. And I don't have any additional recon bombers to give us good visuals on what the enemy might have in store for us over that direction. So I don't want to switch too much of that. I also do need to leave some of that artillery in place to make sure that we're not leaving these frontline positions exposed to potential enemy attacks. I'm also going to go ahead and upgrade some of these units. I've got 500 points, so I'm going to upgrade these units in the second line to have better technology, because we do have some technology upgrades that the entire army has not benefited from yet. Okay. So we just spent all our money on upgrading the army, but we got some of the artillery upgraded to level 2 artillery. We also got some of the ground units upgraded to level 2 infantry weapons. We allowed most of these guys to stay in position. You know, we could have used our artillery to bombard some guys, but I think for the moment it makes sense to kind of hang these guys in place. I'm going to move these blimp bombers, unless there's a case to attack somewhere else with them, but I'm going to move some of these blimp bombers down here. We are going to get additional reinforcements, by the way, as the campaign moves on. Right here. We'll see what the British do. A lot of these troops just got upgraded. But I do have some reserves I can pull south also to help with the offensive. But that's going to do it for turn number 1. So let's go ahead and see what the AI does in response to our attack. Anomalous propagation. Thank you very much for the follow. The German Paris gun bombards the French capital from near Lyon. Okay. We get 954 MPPs. I don't know what the plus 550 for military income is. That was different. Maybe that's a special rule for this particular campaign. You can see we broke through it so near Soissons, so it looks like the enemy pulled those aircraft that were on the border there back to prevent us from easily destroying them with a ground attack. Air units don't do well versus ground units when they're on the defensive. And so the enemy is obviously going to shift troops around to try and reform a new front line. Looks like they're also going to do some air attacks of their own against some of our positions here. We've got a bit of a salient there on that southern position, and the enemy artillery at Rives, I can never pronounce that right, is bombarding our frontline troops. Also some enemy artillery near Verdun. Some enemy infantry attacks near just to the west of Bruges against this exposed infantry unit here of our own that is in a bit of a salient, doing pretty heavy damage to it. Meanwhile, some counterattacks against our troops to the southeast of Lyon. Heavy counterattacks. Swapping out some of their units there. They nearly destroyed that division, although it's still at 20% at least. A British attack near Bethune against our frontline unit there. You can see they're swapping a lot of positions out of the line here to try and get multiple attacks on it. They reduce it by about 40% of its combat effectiveness. We'll have to see if it makes sense to swap a reserve unit in, or if we'd be better off reinforcing it in place. They're also invading along the southeastern border there into Germany proper. And I think those are U.S. Marines over here to the west of Chambly. I believe the U.S. begins showing up with like 1 unit per turn or something like that. We'll have to take a look and see what that looks like. There's St. Mithel. The American Marines look like they're in position there. Also, as we break through, the enemy loses their entrenchment bonuses, but then, like, once they put new troops in the way, they can begin to regain their entrenchments. The French people welcome the American acceptance of amalgamation. President Wilson, okay, harms his popularity. I'm guessing that means American units begin incorporating into French units, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Kiko Futaba, thank you very much for the sub. Bits and sub, very generous of you today. All right, so let's see here. Oh, we get a tank corps, the K-Wagen, as well as 2 more divisions, the 14th at Sedan and the 4th at Ath. Both of these are crack divisions. Let's wait to deploy those for the moment. Let's go ahead and take a look at the report section here. So the Americans currently have 8 divisions in France. The French have 91 and the British have 61. So that's currently 160 divisions plus the 9 Belgian divisions, 169 divisions versus 119 German divisions. No American air units so far. So this division is nearly wrecked. We are gonna attack this enemy artillery because we can, and it looked like it was a 1-4, so those are pretty good combat odds. So now we're gonna pull them back because I don't want them exposed to enemy counterattacks. Let's move this division down here and see if we can't finish off this artillery, and we can. So we just wiped that enemy unit out. It also does have the effect of widening the breach slightly. We'll go ahead and bombard these troops, the 169th Division. Let's get a well, actually, let's wait. Give me some recon on the French troops, the 133rd Division at Soissons. Hopefully we've got escorts that are heading with us. We do. Okay, so we reconned that enemy position. Let's also recon this enemy position, the 55th Division, that's kind of in the middle of where our offensive needs to flow. And then we'll also recon the 169th, because again, we're trying to widen this breach into a full-blown rupture of the front. The artillery can help here. Can't really help down here. I can't reach there, but I can hit these troops. They're at 4 entrenchment, so I can work on getting their entrenchments down. With our hurricane bombardment. All right. So the question is, do we spend effort trying to reduce this enemy unit that's in our rear? I think the answer is, to a point, yes, right? We have to. Okay, so we just destroyed that unit. I don't have movement points to get these guys over here to the left. I can't swap them out there. All right, so in that case, but I would want to go for a 1-6 against this enemy cavalry. I shouldn't have used the recon on Soissons itself. 1-3, 1-6, 1-3. Let's go 1-6 on the enemy cavalry. I'm assuming they'll retreat. No. All right, well, we'll destroy that enemy cavalry division. Okay. 1-5 and a chance to expand the front. Yes, please. All right, give me that. Okay. All right, so we are kind of breaking out here a little bit. These guys have all attacked. Undo that. 1 All right, we do have some new units to deploy. I don't want to attack with them right away. Ooh, yes. Put that armor right in the middle of this breakthrough attempt. But I can't get the new crack troops. They've got to go into their particular location. So that unit has to deploy to Sedan. This guy has to deploy to Oth. Can we operate this unit south to get to the front? I don't like the idea of operating it right into the front line. Let's shift these guys southwest. And then my artillery's not keeping up. That's part of the problem with trying to maintain this momentum. All right, operate this guy out of Oth to the front. We'll just have to hope the enemy doesn't attack against it and it decides to pull back, because this division is in a rough spot. The 55th Division its rear is exposed. It's got no support. We're breaking through on the west. I've got to hope they pull back. Reinforcements to any of these guys. Doesn't look like I can. Pull these troops south as well, I think, to support the drive. Meanwhile, where do they attack over here? These guys still have... They don't have any entrenchments and their morale sucks. These guys have pretty good morale, but they won't have any entrenchments. Let's pull them back. Swing them in. Let's go ahead and bombard these guys. Can we get rid of their entrenchments entirely with multiple bombardments? Maybe then we can have a limited counteroffensive. I'm not planning to attack in the north, but a limited offensive here to try and destroy this frontline enemy unit. Do a little bit of damage here to the British. Destroy the 4th British Infantry Division. What is this anyway? Oh, it's a mine. Huh. So theoretically, we just broke through in the north. Screw it. Push in. Oh, God. That was dumb. Well, that unit's gonna die tomorrow. Just go forwards. You've got it, lads. Do we want to try and get this guy too? Not in the same foolhardy way. Oh, I used all my ammo. Well, so much for that. These guys. Can we attack? These guys are in a natural salient, so let's try and destroy the 63rd Division. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a mod, so I get the counters are not the Y half NATO, not the other. I don't know. Right, 2 to 4. So the British have quite a bit of artillery in reserve. But at least we'll be using up some of their ammo for their artillery. Let's swap this unit out. Got him. All right, we'll leave these guys in place. Let the enemy put another unit into that salient. I don't know how effective railguns are. They only have 1 attack, which kind of sucks. Can they move and attack on the same turn? No. Okay. All right, let's pull this guy out. You know, again, this is an... I'd rather pull back to here, but... See, the 8th Division is a crack division, so if we can bloody them, that would be nice. I guess I turned this "I'm not going to attack everywhere" situation into "we're going to attack everywhere," huh? Mainly because I just want to finish off this bloody crack division, because they only have so many of them. Do we have any recon over this? Alright, so there is enemy artillery there. Alright. Pull those units back. So we'll see if they continue to try and counterattack here in the north, but all right, meanwhile, let's upgrade the units that we can or reinforce the units. I don't think I can really do much in the way of reinforcements. All the units that took casualties, I moved to pull them back out of their positions. Any of these guys have upgrades? I think most of them are already upgraded. All right, so I used quite a bit of my strength up in the north. That was potentially a mistake. We'll have to see how to proceed. Let's go ahead and place the new units, because we've got to place them in these particular cities. I don't have a choice. So deploy this guy at Sedan. Deploy this at Oth. I can't move them the same turn. Let's also operate this unit north so that we've got some reserves up here if the enemy does counterattack. We've got a fair second line, I feel like. I think if they're going to counterattack, it's more likely down here. We've plugged the gap there, so don't do that. Let's just keep reinforcing the offensive and see if we can't push through. So, we're attacking near Valmy. Alright, so we'll destroy the 44th French Division. Attack this French headquarters. Got artillery over that way. Where can this guy operate to? Just on the rail line? Let's reinforce that guy. Upgrade these artillery pieces. To 3, drive into France, cut them off. Okay. Attack Verdun because that worked so well the last time. 4th Brigade of Marines. Yeah, I was right there. Marines. Okay. All right. I think that's everything I can reinforce. I attacked in the north against the British, perhaps a little bit too aggressively. We'll see. We did destroy 2 British divisions, actually 3 British divisions. So if we go ahead and we take a look at the reports, the Americans currently have 8 units, the British have 58, the French are at 86, so the French have lost 5 units, the British 3. So 8 units lost that turn. We'll see if we can maintain the pressure. I'm hoping that next turn we can take Soissons. These guys I'm hoping pull back, and that may open up a wider gap that would give us a 1, 2, 3, 4 hex breach. Can these guys reinforce? No. Let's move our recon aircraft forward a little bit. Can't swing that artillery around. I really need to bring artillery forward. Meanwhile, we have 700 points left. I'm going to spend some of that on research, on infantry warfare, command and control, armored warfare. I don't know how long it takes to research this stuff or if we've got the time to benefit from it, but I'm going to pour money into R&D. In the places where I can. Going over the top to try and speed the research along. That leaves me with just 142, which I'm going to bank for the next attack or reinforcements for the next turn. Because this armored unit, I want to get up to level 10. It's currently under strength. If I advance this level 10 unit, well, these are 5 entrenchments, so we'll keep that there. All right, so I think the 38th Division will probably be killed. But again, destroying one of the British crack divisions is a pretty good result. Let's end this turn and see what the next turn has in store for us. French morale suffers as the enemy forces advance near Belfort. I wonder if that military income thing is a limited period of time to reflect, like, I don't know, something. Reflect something. How articulate of me, yes. All right, so the enemy's shifting troops near Valmy. Bringing some reinforcements to fill some of those gaps where we destroyed some of those enemy units. They're moving a lot of troops around near Soissons, I'm not quite sure why. Some shifting of troops in the north near Newport. They're railing some troops around. This is the largest breach in the front line since 1914. No, I didn't. They gone. I deployed the new troops. All right, so they're going to attack that salient, which, as I said, I'm not surprised. That unit is going to die. I wish they'd retreat, but nope. Meanwhile, a British counterattack at some of our troops that are in the open. Near Soissons. The Portuguese are filling the line. The Portuguese are here. I didn't know the Portuguese had... Looks like they have 2 divisions. I think those are Portuguese units. An American headquarters is arriving near Fer on Tardanos. Sure, I'm butchering the pronunciation on that. 36th Division suffers attrition losses because they're behind the lines. All right, we lost our own 38th Division, or 36th French Division suffered attrition. The German 38th was destroyed. With that being said, everybody, we're going to wrap this episode up here. We're at about 43 minutes, so this is as good a spot as any to go ahead and wrap this up. We'll pick things up exactly where we left things off in our next video. This is a very first look at the Ludendorff offensive scenario in Strategic Command World War I, a game by Fury Software and published by Slitherine and Matrix Games. I've played a lot of Strategic Command on my channel in the past, and I really do enjoy these games, but I think something that's different about this scenario is it's an operational level scenario. So, you know, usually when I play these games, we're playing at the grand strategy levels. So we're looking at basically what would probably amount to armies or at least corps engaging enemy forces on a map of all of Europe, whereas this particular scenario focuses just on the Western Front in World War I, just on the Ludendorff offensive starting in the spring of 1918 and the series of German offensives that occurred there. And so this completely changes the perspective of the game to being something that is fundamentally an operational level game, whereas the base campaign is a strategic level game. And so I think it really does play very differently, and I guess I really wish the game had more options. It has a Ludendorff offensive, it has a 1914 offensive where you can start with the initial German drive in France, but it would be really cool if they had more of these types of scenarios, as well as the strategic side, because I do enjoy the strategic side of things, but I think this plays very differently than the rest of the game, and I really enjoy it. And this is fundamentally my first look at it because I've only played it a little bit. With that being said, guys, I hope you did enjoy the video. Let me know your thoughts below, and until next time, as always, this is the Historical Gamer, and until next time, I'm out.